SpaceX is undeniably the most well-known player in the private spaceflight industry today. Founded in 2002 by the Forbes list 21st most powerful man, Elon Musk, the company's repertoire of achievements seemingly come out of science fiction, as it was founded on the premise of making space travel affordable and routine, with efforts for the eventual colonization of Mars possibly starting by 2024, henceforth making life multiplanetary. As the story goes, Musk, already being a multimillionaire at age 30 with his involvement in the founding of PayPal, sought to rekindle interest in spaceflight, seeing that beyond the Apollo missions, no other projects were slated for future space travel. Possibly due to a combination of being an avid sci-fi nerd and being a bored millionaire with a physics degree, Elon set his eyes on Mars with a project to land a greenhouse dubbed the Mars Oasis, essentially aiming to breach the next frontier, with the red planet being the farthest point that life would have thus traveled. Musk looked into buying cheap rockets from Russia to start his plans for intergalactic rule. Despite being unsuccessful in finding one that was affordable and even being scoffed at for being an amateur by one of the chief Russian engineers he had met with, the endeavor led him to the fact that the raw materials needed to make a rocket cost only 3% of the sale price of one. Having no other knowledge of how to build a rocket or even what the design would look like, Elon fully committed to building his own rocket and founded SpaceX, which grew quickly as it attracted an enormous amount of attention from the onset through their nigh-impossible claims, goals, and projects, which they rigorously worked towards, surmounting obstacles and challenges that even established spaceflight companies from around the world thought to be a mere waste of time and resources. In a short time span, SpaceX managed to shake the top players of the spaceflight industry. Some of the company's numerous achievements since its founding in 2002 include having developed the workhorse Falcon 9 orbital rocket, which became the most economic launcher in the market from the get-go. Being the first to successfully launch, orbit, and recover a spacecraft, the said Falcon 9, which they've vertically landed both on land and on an ocean platform and have reused and reflown multiple times, subsequently dropping its launch costs even lower. Having developed a cargo resupply spacecraft for the ISS, the Dragon, which can transport 6,000 kilograms of pressurized and unpressurized cargo, and can return 3,000 kilograms back to Earth, making it the only uncrewed resupply vehicle capable of returning a payload, while also developing a crewed variant for orbital spaceflight on its way to becoming the first private company to successfully launch a human-rated spacecraft to space. Having developed and successfully launched the partially reusable Falcon Heavy rocket that possesses the highest payload capacity of any currently operational launch vehicle, through the stunning feat of shooting a car, Elon Musk's own Tesla Roadster weighing around 1,250 kilograms, into heliocentric orbit. They developed the first full-flow stage combustion engine, the Raptor, which is set to power SpaceX's next set of space vehicles, replacing their current set of vehicles, including the Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy, while also being expected to be the engine powering their planned, fully reusable interplanetary spaceship capable of carrying 100 tons with crews of up to 100 people in efforts to achieve the company's ultimate goal of space travel to Mars. Now, these are all amazing and historic feats that our grandparents would have only seen in an episode of The Twilight Zone, and even then, the list could go on if one were so inclined to make it longer. In relation to all these highly advanced monumental achievements, though, is the equally monumental cost required to fund not only research and development, but also to bankroll the missions themselves and the people involved. Developing an orbital-class rocket engine is undoubtedly one of the hardest engineering challenges that has ever faced humanity, requiring a vast amount of auxiliary infrastructure, extensive need for only the most capable professionals, along with an always looming risk of failure due to the way that efforts like these push thermodynamics and the material sciences to the absolute frontier of human knowledge. The road was not easy for SpaceX, and the first roadblock they faced was present in developing their current standard Merlin rocket engine. Building this engine was a challenge that Musk and his team faced with a very ardent and efficient attitude. And one wouldn't be wrong to make comparisons with the endeavors of comic book superheroes like Tony Stark developing his first arc reactor or Bruce Wayne designing the Bat Belt. Musk knew that to be able to achieve their goals of colonizing Mars, they had to push for major aeronautic breakthroughs and to go beyond what was deemed possible. With this in mind, they tackled this problem with an off-kilter but intensely efficient approach. first by co-opting NASA's fast-track engine, and then rigorously working towards continuously optimizing and reconfiguring the design. In true SpaceX fashion, they swiftly came up with the first of the Merlin family of rocket engines and took the industry by storm by winning a competition by NASA for funding spacecraft that could possibly service the ISS as the Space Shuttle program had come to a halt. Though the Falcon 1, an homage to Han Solo's Millennium Falcon and a testament to Elon Musk's nerdship, was small and could only carry half a ton in payload to orbit, it was very useful and served to be much less of a risk than opting for a more ambitious spacecraft that could possibly flush their funding down the drain, eventually bankrupting the company. The comparison to science fiction heroes would continue as Musk's brave, calculated risk paid off. By the end of 2008, a mere 6 years since being founded, the company won a contract from NASA that was worth more than $1 billion. The subsequent success on these projects served to stand as proof to SpaceX's reliability, and backed by their extremely affordable rates, the contracts came in waves, mostly from the telecommunications industry, NASA, and the U.S. government. As of February 2012, the whole company was roughly valued at about $1.3 billion. And by May of the same year, that number nearly doubled to around $2.4 billion due to the historic success of the COTS 2 mission, which heralded the Dragon C2 Plus as the first American spacecraft to visit the ISS since the Space Shuttle program, and the first commercial spacecraft to rendezvous and berth with another spacecraft. Now that we've surveyed SpaceX's astronomical rise to spaceflight stardom, no pun intended, one would be wondering, how exactly does SpaceX get all the money for their ludicrous space missions and equally exorbitant goals? The brunt of the answer lies in the company's core principle of making spaceflight more economic by constructing reusable rocket systems and space vehicles. This was the main edge that drove them through the market and on top of everyone else. Back then, it was common practice in the industry to discard the first and second stages of launchers. Elon Musk found this practice entirely preposterous, and as Steve Jurvetson, an important investor in Musk's companies, iterated, this was like having every airplane only conduct one-way flights and then blowing up the planes after every flight. Even space frontier stalwarts such as NASA paid no attention to this extreme inefficiency, but Musk, with his vision of not just sending 1 or 2 persons to Mars, but sending millions in the effort to colonize it, saw the erasing of this inefficiency imperative to achieving his goal. The first stage of a launcher, the bottom part, the one that detaches first and is responsible for the initial takeoff, according to Musk, made up around 70% of the initial manufacturing costs of the whole rocket. By reusing this as well as the second stage, their profit per launch would increase significantly. This also meant that subsequent relaunches would be much cheaper. Additionally, both the Falcon 9 and the Falcon Heavy rockets were designed with commonality in mind. To put this into perspective, the Falcon 9 is powered by 9 Merlin engines, the same engine used in both the Falcon 1 and the Falcon Heavy, which essentially made fuel for all the SpaceX vehicles and its stages homogeneous. Looking at the Falcon Heavy, it basically consists of just 3 Falcon 9 boosters strapped together. The average Joe might call this lazy or even downright cheapskating, but this actually makes all their designs and the manufacturing of said designs extremely efficient, and makes simulation and data possibly applicable to all of their designs. This is in light of SpaceX's vertical integration, which means that the supply chain is owned by the company itself, thereby maximizing cost efficiency to the highest order. Almost 80% of the components for the Falcon and Dragon, including in-flight computers and the Merlin engine, are made in-house. This was something that the company did not mean to set out and do, but was forced upon them by the exorbitant prices that other companies were charging them. All these reasons compounded are what put SpaceX at the top, and although compared to other rocket manufacturers their profit margins are somewhat lower, they make up for it in terms of the number of launches they commit to. As of March 2018, SpaceX had listed over 100 launches in their manifest, with 19 launches throughout 2018, almost doubling prime competitor Arianespace's 11 launches in the same year. In comparison to their competitors, SpaceX's Falcon 9 rockets are easily the most affordable, standing at the published price tag of $56.5 million, having dropped from $70 million per launch to low Earth orbit, $15 million cheaper than the Chinese Long March 3B rocket, which stands at $70 million. The European launcher Arianespace's Ariane 5 or American rocket maker United Launch Alliance's ULA Atlas V, on the other hand, go for around a whopping $165 million at the cheapest. In the words of Musk himself, the European rockets have no chance. Amidst all this success, though, This is only the beginning for SpaceX. The company maintains just the right balance in their profit margins to keep their profits positive, all the while accepting a substantial amount of contracts so that they may have more opportunities in developing and perfecting their landing and relaunching systems. Once they've gotten this down, everything else will go up, as their earnings will most likely skyrocket as they head for their eventual goal of interplanetary space travel. At this point in time, all of SpaceX's earnings come from satellite launches alone, but coming along with the developments in their rocket's capabilities is the establishment of Starlink project, a satellite constellation that is set to provide satellite internet access globally and is projected to be valued at a little over $30 billion by 2025. This will undoubtedly send internet service providers scrambling and throw the industry into total disarray, as this will create a massive rift in the market. Furthermore, the company also has plans regarding space tourism, with 3 clients already slated to visit the ISS in 2021. Each individual will pay around $52 million for a single trip, making up what would be a large part of their yearly income, provided they achieve their plan to make 2 trips in a year, with eventual expansion including tours to the Moon and even Mars in the future. And if all of that isn't enough, SpaceX is also planning to revolutionize Earth-to-Earth travel with the BFR, or the Big Falcon rocket, or Big Effing rocket, theoretically having the capability to deliver cargo or passengers to anywhere in the world in less than an hour. SpaceX currently is the beacon for humanity's hope for interstellar travel. If it doesn't become the first one to reach Mars, it would have definitely inspired the one that will, as the coming of SpaceX into the scene immediately revolutionized the industry. Elon Musk and his team set lofty goals that in the beginning were scoffed and laughed at by the so-called experts in the field. But achieving those plans may come sooner than we think, and humanity as a whole would benefit much from this superhuman challenge that SpaceX has chosen to undertake. Do you think SpaceX will be the first to reach Mars? If not SpaceX, then who? Let us know in the comments section below. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow.